Hi, this is Jared Polak, founder of Entre Results, author of Entre Balance, author of Entre Business, founder of Entre Results Academy, back for another awesome podcast today. I have been going to many different conferences and different organizations, and the topic of mindset comes up over and over again. The mindset is so powerful in the business world, in life in general. And so what I want to do right now is just share 3 books that have had an effect on my life in regards to mindset. Now, these aren't necessarily my favorite books of all time or the greatest books to read, but in regards to mindset, these are 3 books that had an impact on my life. And I'm going to share just a little bit about the book and what I can remember of these books. I haven't read them all recently. Number 1 is a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's actually a very well-known book. He's a great marketer, as well as some of these other books are, part of it is just the marketing of the books. But I remember reading this book right when I was leaving kind of corporate America. I still thought my mindset was still in big business. I thought, from college on up of working my way up the corporate ladder and working my way up to higher positions within big business, Fortune 500 companies. That was sort of my mindset at the time. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I can't really give you a huge synopsis, but kind of gives two different role models in the author's life, whether fictional or real. And just talks about how they interacted with life differently. And so what I learned from that is to really begin to think more entrepreneurially. Certainly to think more about starting my own business as opposed to working my way up the corporate ladder. I thought more about how can I own the corporate ladder, or how can I have more control of the corporate ladder. And definitely he has a bent towards real estate and real estate investing. So thinking more about investing and not typical type of investing, but maybe real estate type investing, and be a little bit more creative with investing. So he also came out with a few other books called Cash Flow Quadrant was another book. And I think Rich Dad's book on investing, and kind of a series of books. But it was really just the mindset shift that really helped push me in a entrepreneurial direction. Another book, number 2, which I've read not recently, but more frequently than Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And again, there's a lot of things that maybe I don't agree with in terms of the author, but just this idea of outsourcing your life, or what can you do to create a life where you have an abundant amount of time to pursue other ventures. The things that I really took away with it was the ability for the quote-unquote average person, or the ability for people that don't have a lot of financial resources to be able to outsource things to free up their time. He elaborated even more on a concept that we coach on quite a bit, the 80-20 rule, or Pareto's principle, that just talks about freeing up time and focusing on the vital few things that'll give you the greatest results with the least amount of time, effort, energy, and resources. But this really gave me a kick, and since this book, I've explored a lot of virtual assistants overseas, and I found it with great success. How living in America and having a reasonable degree of income, you have the ability to really use talent overseas at a fraction of the cost of what it would cost to do this here. And I use this in all areas of life. Even right now, I'm currently being tutored by a Spanish tutor in Venezuela. And so this is just another example of how you can outsource your life in many ways. And then this is very applicable in business. The third book, which I read, I think 2 or 3 years ago, is a book called The 10X Principle by Grant Cardone. And what this did was really stretched my mindset, and stretches your mindset to think about growth in business and in life faster than you could without applying this 10X principle. In fact, in many ways, I wouldn't even have to read the book. It's essentially, how do you 10X whatever you want to grow? So for example, if you have a business that just say has $100,000 in revenue this year, how can you, by the end of this year, have $1 million in revenue? How can you 10x what you currently have? And what it does is it stretches your mind to think, wow, I'm at 100,000, but to get to 1 million within a year, there are a lot of things that I need to do differently. There's a lot of things that I need to do that I haven't even thought about doing before. And so, well, how can you get to 1 million? And so you work your way backwards. Well, in order to get to 1 million, gosh, I'm going to need to have 10 times the amount of clients. Okay, so if you think about having 10 times the amount of clients, how do you do that? Well, I need to invest a lot more in marketing to get qualified leads. Okay, work your way back. Okay, so then what do you need to do? Well, I need to have more people to also be able to close those leads. Okay, what else do you need to do? Well, also I need to have more people to facilitate the work once we get those 10 new clients. So anyway, it's just a brain stretch to make you think bigger than you would ever think if you hadn't gone through the 10X principle. I love personally this going over this 10X principle. Actually, I didn't absolutely love the book, but I love the principle. So those are 3 books. If you want to get better at mindset, maybe think about reading those 3 books or read a few other books that you are recommended that can help give you greater results. Make it a better than amazing day.